America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
and by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.
I'm John Lobertini. You know, lobster is a delicacy in great favor with diners, but we're heading for the coast and islands of Maine this week, where lobster fishing is reinventing itself in a changing world.
Hi, I'm Rob Stewart. We'll take you to Pennsylvania to meet a dairy family who's been farming this land since 1906, and the next generation is ready to keep that tradition alive.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gardner. We're heading to Texas for a story about barn cats, a unique program that benefits farmers, ranchers, and our feral friends. That's all coming up on America's Heartland.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand. In America's heartland, living close to the land.
Just like any other agricultural endeavor, fishing involves a process that brings in a harvest that makes its way to your dinner table. Here on the coast of Maine, that harvest is lobster. But change is challenging these waters. Sunrise is a symbol of new beginnings, but the start of this late summer day demands the continuity of a regimen that's been the reality in these Maine waters for generations. As the sun comes up, the lobster fishermen of Swan's Island head out to sea. Jason Joyce knows these waters well and realizes the work he does each day is part of the past and the future.
I'm hanging on to this and taking care of it for the next generation. My father took care of it for me, his father took care of it for him, making sure you conserve so that we have a fishery that spans, in my case, 8 generations.
In Maine, lobsters are caught in traps or pots baited with fish to attract the crustaceans. Fishermen often work hundreds of pots a day. Lobster fishing, though, isn't as physically demanding as it used to be. Traps are now pulled from the water by machine instead of by hand. But what you haul up doesn't always mean money in your pocket. In Maine, size matters, and this gauge determines whether or not you can keep a lobster or you have to throw it back. The head must measure at least 3 1/4 inches, but it can be no longer than 5 inches. And there are also rules for breeding females.
It's a female, it's got a notch in it, so we're gonna let her go back and find her a new husband.
Once secured, the catch must be safely transferred to market.
I'm banning the lobsters, trying to keep them so that they don't injure each other in storage. It's a live product that we're sending that's perishable, and we want to make sure they're in as good shape as they can be.
Environmental regulations and a myriad of laws at the state and federal level have impacted the industry here. Special rope and connectors for buoys and traps help protect whales in these waters, just one of the changes today's fishermen now face. And those realities have prompted a move to diversify. The University of Maine Lobster Institute sees an opportunity to offer consumers more than just lobster tails, using parts that are usually thrown away. A lobster dog biscuit has been an early hit, but the shell may hold the most promise.
We add shell material to food products in a very finely ground, like a flour. And there are some animal studies that indicate that chitin, which is part of the shell, does have the potential to lower your cholesterol.
Professor Bayer also points to early studies on antiseptic effects from the shells and possible benefits in treating osteoporosis. And there's more. Hauling in the traps sometimes provides an additional catch: green crabs, known for decimating clam populations. Graduate student Joe Galletti thinks this invasive aquatic species might hold potential as another food source.
I think we found a way to mechanically process these crabs and get some good nutrition and good mincemeat from these crabs, whereas before they weren't being used as a culinary delight.
All of these efforts may hold promise for this tight-knit island community. A community that pulls together. When 57-year-old Spencer Joyce suffered a stroke, Islanders kept his business going.
So we all look out for each other. If someone is in trouble, or if their boat is having some trouble or something like that, you'll team up and help them go through their traps. And so it's a good sense of community that you don't see in, obviously, a lot of places in the world.
Swans Island is one of the most picturesque places in America, a place where the ocean's bounty gives hope to those who work these waters.
There isn't any other fishery that I can think of that can sustain 8 generations and still have someone be able to make a living at it. Maine product is good product. It's a conservation-minded, sustainable fishery that a lot of other fisheries around the world strive to be.
Lobsters have been around for a long, long time. In fact, the snappy crustaceans have changed very little in the past 100 million years. In the water, lobsters can be blue, light yellow, green-brown, gray, orange, or calico. Some even have spots. However, they all turn red when they're cooked.
We get to meet lots of very nice farm and ranch families here on America's Heartland, and their commitment to agriculture continues to be an inspiration today. So you'll appreciate this next story about a farm family that has proven that commitment for a very long, long time. For more than a century, 6 generations of the Holman family have been walking and working this land in Center Hall, Pennsylvania.
My great-grandfather, being as old as he was, selected to come to this farm because it had more tillable acres. And that's like saying looking for more work.
They never stopped looking for work.
Let's go. Let's go.
Dairy is the demand here, with Carl and Diane Holman and their son Justin milking 75 cows twice a day. The cows call at 4 a.m. and 4 p.m., producing about 625 gallons of milk each day. And with a foot of snow on the ground, this is tough, hands-on work.
6 months into it, I was saying, can't do it. I just can't do it. We've got to do something else. And Carl wasn't ready to throw the towel in at 6 months, giving it a shot. But there's just something about farming that you work harder at it than most people would put into any kind of other job. You give something to your children here that you can't give to them in anything else.
Move the cows from the back side to the front side of the bunk here.
After college, Justin did agricultural work in the Midwest, but felt the call home. His future as a dairy farmer here provides a continuity with the land that began with his great-great-grandfather. So Justin, do you think about the huge amount of history here that's getting ready to fall on your shoulders?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of hard work people have done to keep this farm and keep it running. And being here during as many years as I have, I can certainly appreciate the level of work that has gone into it.
Justin and his parents know keeping that work going requires innovative solutions to serious challenges.
It's Carl, it's me, and it's Justin. And we talked a few years ago and said, you know what? If any one of us leaves the picture, we're sunk. We have to have those 3 basic people full-time working at this.
The business has to grow to keep remaining profitable, and I think agriculture is one of them places where you definitely have to start diversifying or expanding different ways in order to be able to generate the same income you did 10 years ago. Hey, girl.
Across the country, state and local governments have begun realizing the efforts that families put into keeping farms like this alive and thriving.
My great-grandfather farmed here from 1906 to 1921.
In recent years, Pennsylvania has honored more than 1,800 centennial farm families, along with 144 others whose farms date back more than 2 centuries.
Pennsylvania has a rich agrarian heritage and history dating back to the first European settlers that came here hundreds of years ago and brought with them a strong sense of stewardship and responsibility toward the land. And certainly that attitude remains alive and well in today's Pennsylvania farmer.
We're not certainly pioneers. I wouldn't have wanted to go back to their day and how they did it, but when I think about how each generation, some things change, but some things don't. You still do have an appreciation for what you worked hard for and you bring into the table.
Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the beauty of this day that you've placed before us. Amen.
Agriculture in America has changed dramatically since Carl Holman's ancestors first plowed these Pennsylvania fields. But the family knows that certain things are constant, including their love for this land.
You don't take it lightly. You know, people have put a lot of sweat into it and a lot of time and love into it.
I'm just overwhelmed with the feeling of blessing from the Lord that they dedicated themselves to this lifestyle and to the idea that this is to go on to the next generation and help to feed the nation and the world.
History is big in Pennsylvania. In addition to centennial and bicentennial farms, the Keystone State was home to the first presidential mansion in the United States, some of the first newspapers in the New Republic, and the world's first oil well. And while most folks associate Daniel Boone with Kentucky, the celebrated woodsman was born just outside Reading, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Jason Shoultz. Still ahead on America's Heartland, everybody loves a parade. Coming up, how one farm family helps a small Iowa town celebrate and survive.
I'm Sarah Gardner. Still ahead, we'll take you to Texas, where feral felines are helping farmers and ranchers in the Lone Star State.
Hi, I'm Paul Robbins, and here's something you may not have known about agriculture. Almonds are one of the most popular foods around today. There are health benefits attributed to almonds, but it's really the flavor that's the big draw for most people. But if you go back in time, great taste was only part of the appeal.
Ancient pagans worshipped almonds as fertility charms. Romans showered their newlyweds with them as a marriage blessing, and they were an important part of the economies of countries all around the Mediterranean. Spanish missionaries brought almonds to the Americas. They were first planted on the coast of California, but the cooler climate inhibited their growth, and when they were planted in the Golden State's Central Valley, almonds flourished. Today, the area is one of the premier almond-producing regions in the world, and I bet you didn't know that botanically, almonds are stone fruits related to cherries, plums, and peaches. They're low in saturated fat and a good source of protein and potassium.
Since the almond was highly regarded early on as a symbol of health and economy, it's one of the foods mentioned in the Bible, along with pistachios.
Small towns across the heartland face good and bad times just like everywhere else. But one thing we often hear is that when times get tough, people in those small communities pull together. And that kind of attitude has helped the town of Waverly, Iowa thrive for 150 years.
The flowers are in place, the tiki heads are mounted, while the Mummelthai family makes last-minute preparations. Across town, the lawn chair spectators jockey for their spots. The Waverly Heritage Days Parade is about to begin. Deb Mummelthai is entering a float for her flower and gift shop, and Steve's entry promotes his seed business.
I think the key to making a family farm work is we all try to specialize in a different area. And my wife started this store about
15 years
ago. Yeah.
15 years ago, my boys got old enough to drive the tractors and combines. I came to town to start a business.
Waverly's summertime celebration is an annual affair. Ike Ackerman is the mayor of this eastern Iowa town of 8,000.
Agriculture is the lifeblood of small towns in the Midwest.
Reminders of agriculture's importance to this town can be found at the parade. From equipment dealers to the 4-H, Waverly's economy is largely agricultural based. About 5 miles from town, the Mumblethys grow about 1,000 acres of corn and soybeans.
We're always trying to think of ways to be creative, and you know, when you want to live in an area and sustain a lifestyle, you have to always be looking for the next thing.
He also sells corn and soybean seed to other area farmers. His sons help him with the family business. Today, they're operating this seed wagon converted into a parade candy shooter. Also adding to the Waverly economy is Deb Mumblethys' downtown business. Selling gifts and wedding merchandise, her business generates tax revenue for the city and helps the downtown thrive.
I was born and raised here, went to high school here. My husband went to high school here, and we got married, stayed in town, and he started farming, and we've raised our children in this town, and my whole entire family lives in this town.
So you may not live within the city limits per se, but you have a vested interest in the future of Waverly, right?
Absolutely.
While the reach of that agricultural economic impact is worth celebrating, townspeople across the Heartland have learned that when times are tough on the farm, they feel the direct impact.
Agriculture is kind of like construction. It's cyclical. Sometimes soybeans are $13 a bushel, and sometimes they're $4. And you have ups and downs, and if you're into only egg, then the downs are really down.
And just like the Mumblethys diversifying to maintain their family finances, town leaders have learned that over the years, diversification is essential for economic survival. The town is home to a college and industrial employers.
We've got some industries that have really, weathered this economic time and done well. And so that's really helped create a nice environment for Waverly.
Something else that helps towns like Waverly, the willingness of residents to pull together during tough times. Something the Mumblethys saw firsthand when floodwaters from the Cedar River invaded their town one recent summer after heavy storms.
Well, it just kept rising and rising, and we thought we could beat it, and we almost had it beat, and then the water came through the walls from the seepage in the ground, and so then we had to start all over. We moved our store and hauled everything out into 4 semi-loads and moved.
You always watch the news where a tragedy or something happens in the country, and you always think, I know where that place is or something, but all of a sudden it becomes you.
But today this town is celebrating a comeback. At the same time, it celebrates its heritage and future.
What do you think about the future for Waverly, Iowa?
I think the future for Waverly is good. We're hoping that people just stay on top of it and keep supporting each other and keep living life like you enjoying it, like you should.
Corn and soybeans put Iowa into the major leagues when it comes to crops, but Iowa is also the country's leading egg-producing state, and Iowa has a lot of hogs as well. In fact, there are 6 hogs in Iowa for every person in the state.
My name is Chris Storm, and I'm a viticulturist. A viticulturist ensures that the wine grapes that we're growing end up in the consumer's wine glass, and also we're providing them with the highest quality wine grapes possible. Most folks want to go into the wine industry wanting to make wine, and yeah, that's kind of the sexy part of the industry, but the other part of the industry is the out in the vineyard making sure that those guys get good quality grapes. I get the most joy out of going home and enjoying a glass of wine made from grapes that I helped grow. On a daily basis, I will either be driving up and down a vineyard looking for insect pests,
10, 11, 12 nymphs per leaf,
diseases, any kind of problem in the wine grape or in the vine, any kind of irrigation issue, and any kind of fertility problem. So I'll be making notes of those in my PDA. I use a PDA to do all my monitoring. So what I'm doing now is dropping a little crops. The unique thing about wine grapes is that we're not necessarily growing for tonnage, whereas most other crops you grow for tonnage. In wine grapes, we're going for quality. And so to get quality, you have to stress the grapes just a little bit, and in some cases stress the grapes quite a bit. And that stress on the grapes provides a higher quality juice, which then is converted into a higher quality wine.
There are 82 million cats in the United States, but a large number of those cats find themselves abandoned or left to run wild, so they become feral felines. There's a group here in Texas, however, that helps a lot of those cats find new homes and new jobs, helping out in the Heartland.
The word feral means wild and undomesticated, and they're the cats that you walk outside and they scatter everywhere, run away. They don't want to be touched by humans. They're very untrusting of humans, which is what helps them to survive a lot of times in the wild.
Pam Asturias is a hometown hero to many in the Dallas area. She devotes much of her time to a program called Feral Friends, helping cats that will never be family pets never be adopted from a shelter.
These cats, I always feel like they don't have anybody to speak for them. I love all animals, but the feral cats, I mean, you can't pick them up and cuddle them. They deserve a chance just like anybody else. I mean, they can't help their situation. They were born here or dumped outside, and they do the best they can. We offer low-cost spay-neuter services for people with feral cat colonies. They call us or find us on the web and ask us for information on how to handle the colonies in their areas.
Those colonies can range from 2 cats to 2 dozen. Rather than euthanize, Feral Friends traps, spays, and neuters the animals, then returns the cats to their feral territory.
If the cats cannot go back to a situation, if a building's being torn down, if somebody is shooting the cats, poisoning them, then our group turns to a group called Barn Cats Incorporated.
Farmers need these cats. They're working cats.
Peggy Atkerson directs Barn Cats Incorporated. Working with Pam and her group, they strive to find better life options for these wild felines.
Come here, Sammy.
Begun in 2003, Barn Cats relocates feral animals across North Texas, placing them on farms and ranches. The cats start new lives using some of the skills they've acquired in the wild.
They can catch the rats and the mice, control that in their particular barn or shed or warehouse, whatever it happens to be, and take care of a whole set of problems. Snakes are looking for rats and mice. So no rats, no mice, no snakes.
Not every cat, however, is suitable for farm work.
We won't ever take a kitten because a kitten can be carried off by a hawk or an owl. The color of the cat is also a factor in some cases. Cats are nocturnal, so they're going to be out hunting at night. A solid white cat is going to reflect moonlight, and then it's going to be like a coyote magnet.
Barn Cats will shelter some 40 animals at any given time. After being received from groups like Feral Friends, they're moved to farm and ranch locations and sheltered there in cages for at least 2 weeks.
At the end of 2 weeks, they leave those doors open to the cage, and the cat then is on their own. And we say that's up to God at that point. So if the cats stay, that's really a good thing.
That adjustment period gives them time to get used to the sights, sounds, and smells of their new territory. Almost every weekend, Barn Cats will place about a half-dozen cats in new locations in Northeast Texas. Today, 2 feral cats began new jobs on Melissa Wilson's ranch, keeping vermin from devouring her horse feed.
I have a bad rat problem out here, so when that keeps the rats from coming in the barn and eating the horse food. And actually, I've actually seen some of those rats. They're scary. Cats they're working animals. I mean, the cats are great up here too because they keep the snakes away too.
Most of them really, really appreciate the cats, and they want them to be there. They don't want to put out poisons. They don't want their dogs or their children or whomever to get in poison. And that is a very serious thing, because if you put a lot of money into livestock, they can get into that poison as well.
The cat programs here and across the country strive to give feral animals a new chance at life. And for these cats, on farms and ranches, a home in the Heartland.
And it just makes me feel so good when these cats are spayed and neutered, put back out, and you just see the males calm down and stop fighting, and they just get relaxed, and you know, they have people that care for them, and it's just a wonderful feeling to know that you've saved their lives.
That's going to do it for this time. Thanks for traveling with us on this edition of America's Heartland.
We are always glad when you join us, and remember, there's much more on America's Heartland on our website, including video from today's stories. Just go to americasheartland.org. We'll see you next time.
To order a copy of this broadcast, visit us online or call 1-888-814-3923. The cost is $14.95 plus shipping.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
And by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.